You know, Madison, wiping old people's butts ain't a career, it's community service. That's what my Uncle Robert said last week, beer in one hand, smirk glued to his face, while my cousin Kayla giggled like it was the funniest thing in the world. And that right there, that was the moment I knew something was seriously messed up. But hold up, let me rewind real quick. I'm Madison, I'm 29, I'm an ICU nurse in Dallas. Yeah, I deal with blood, trauma, family screaming, and sometimes I cry in my car before I drive home. It's not glamorous, but it's real. I also run a TikTok account on the side where I talk about nursing life patient stories, tips, dark humor, the usual. I got around 900K followers now. Not gonna lie, it helps pay the bills. But my family, they don't get it. Or maybe they just choose not to. Growing up, my parents passed away when I was in high school, so I lived with my Aunt Susan and Uncle Robert after that. They weren't evil, but they were traditional. Uncle Robert worked construction for 30+ years. He's one of those real job dudes who think unless you're sweating outside or behind a desk 9 to 5, you're wasting oxygen. Aunt Susan's sweet but passive. Always tried to keep the peace, even if it meant letting crap slide. Kayla, my cousin, is 25, still finding herself. She's been through at least 5 majors and 3 jobs in 2 years. I don't judge. I've helped her out more than a few times, covered rent once. Helped her get her car fixed when she was stranded. Hell, I even helped her record a makeup video once because she wanted to be a YouTuber. So last weekend, they invited me over for family night. Pizza, beer, some card games. I thought it'd be chill. I hadn't seen them in a while and figured, why not? Big mistake. First red flag. The joke started before I even sat down. Must be nice, not having to wake up before noon. Uncle Robert chuckled as I walked in. ICU shifts start at 6 a.m. Rob, I replied, trying to laugh it off. Then Kayla jumped in. Well, when you're just filming your little TikToks all day, what's the rush, right? Okay, that stung a bit, but I smiled. I told myself, it's family. Maybe they're just clueless. Spoiler, they weren't clueless, they were mean, and they were being mean on purpose. Things escalated over dinner. Robert was 2 beers in when he started imitating my TikTok voice. You guys, today I changed a colostomy bag and got yelled at by a patient's mom. Don't forget to like and subscribe. He held up his phone like he was me, while everyone at the table cracked up. I froze. I stared at Kayla. She had her phone out, not just laughing, filming. That's when I got up. I didn't say anything. I went to the bathroom and just sat there. I stared at my own face in the mirror, and all I could think was, what the actual fuck? Like, I've helped these people, paid their bills, covered hospital copays for Aunt Susan, brought groceries over when they were short, and now I'm a joke. Fast forward to the next morning. I was at work, mid-shift. When I checked my phone during a break, Kayla had posted a story. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked, and there it was. Robert, sitting in his recliner, beer in hand, saying, Madison's out here thinking she's saving the world, wiping old folks' asses. Meanwhile, she's getting rich off filming herself cry on the internet. Then laughter. Kayla turned the camera on herself and said, This is why she's single. Guys, she's either at work or online pretending she's Oprah. I swear to God, my hands were shaking. My coworker saw me and asked if I was okay. I just nodded and left the break room. You know that feeling when you realize people you've protected, defended, and financially supported don't actually respect you at all? That was me. I got off work, went home, opened my banking app, just out of spite, just to remind myself how much I've been doing for them. $1 $200. Aunt Susan's dental bill, $300. Kayla's car repair, $2,000. Robert's hospital copay last winter, $200 groceries last month. Every single one of those charges was me saying yes when they needed help, and they still looked at me like I was a goddamn clown. I opened our family group chat, typed, saw the video, didn't know that's how y'all really felt. Waited. 3 dots. Nothing. Then Kayla replied, OMG Madison, chill. It was a joke. You're being dramatic. Then Robert, Jesus, you always take things too personally. You need to toughen up. Toughen up. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. I typed back, if my life is such a joke to you, don't worry about asking me for another damn dime. Then I muted the chat. I sat on my couch, dead silent. And for the first time in years, I felt done. But here's the thing about toxic people, they don't take no very well. And I had a feeling this was just the beginning. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying that damn video in my head. The way Robert laughed, the way Kayla grinned at the camera like it was some hilarious inside joke and not a total betrayal. Like what the hell was funny about tearing someone down who's literally kept your lights on? By the time morning hit, I was running on caffeine and rage. I had a double shift ahead, but I was wired. Couldn't stop thinking about how I let this happen, how I let myself be so blind. Anyway, my phone started blowing up around 10 a.m. First was a missed call from Kayla, then a bunch of texts. Hey, can we talk? I didn't mean anything by the video. You know how Uncle Rob gets. Screw that. I didn't reply. Then Susan messaged me. Sweetheart, Robert didn't mean it. He just jokes like that sometimes. Yeah, I know. He's been joking like that since I was 17 and living in their house. Back then, it was we took you in. Don't get too comfortable. And now it's your job as a joke, but thanks for paying our bills. Classic. I left them all on red. At lunch break, I did what I probably should have done months ago. I called the bank. Remember that emergency savings account I set up with Aunt Susan's name on it? I created it when she had heart surgery 2 years ago. I figured, we're family. It's safer for her to have access if something goes down. Well, big mistake. I logged in and almost choked on my sandwich. 3 withdrawals in the last 24 hours. $500, $250, $300. Gone, just like that. I called the bank immediately, voice shaking. Had to go through all the security crap, and I was trying not to yell. I finally told the rep, I need Susan's name removed, effective immediately. She tried to ask if it was a shared family account and if I was sure. I didn't even let her finish. Yes, I'm absolutely sure. After the call, I sat in my car during break and just stared into space. I wanted to scream or cry or both, but more than anything, I felt stupid, like deeply, soul-level stupid. These people didn't just laugh at me behind my back. They stole from me, like it was nothing, like they were entitled to it. I texted the group chat one last time. You took money from me. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked all of them. Phone, Facebook, everything, cold cut. And let me tell you, there was a weird calm that came with it. Like I had finally yanked out a splinter I didn't realize had been stuck in me for 10 years. But the peace didn't last. That night around 8, someone pounded on my apartment door. Not a knock, a pound, heavy, repetitive. I froze. My stomach sank before I even looked. I already knew who it was. I peeked through the peephole. Robert, of course. He was red-faced, pacing in front of the door like a bull in a cage. I didn't open it. He yelled, Madison, open the damn door. Nope, we need to talk. You don't just cut your family off like this. I backed away, heart thudding. I should have called the cops, or at least grabbed my phone to record, but I was paralyzed. I didn't want a scene. My neighbors don't need to know I've got a bootleg Tony Soprano screaming outside my door. Eventually, he left, but not before shoving something under the door. A handwritten letter. I wish I was joking. It said, You've always been ungrateful. We took you in when no one else wanted to. You wouldn't be anything without us. Don't forget that. Burned it, literally, lighter, sink, poof. Next day Facebook post, public. Robert wrote a long-ass rant. Some people forget who helped raise them. They get a little fame and money and suddenly think they're too good for their roots. He didn't name me, but everyone knew, Kayla commented. Facts. Can't buy class, and that pissed me off. Not even 24 hours after stealing from me and mocking my job, they were playing the victim. All right, gloves off. I made a post, not some long paragraph, just a screenshot of my banking app. Every transaction labeled Susan Dental, Kayla Tires, Robert ER Visit. I blanked out the account numbers and sensitive stuff. Caption. Just a reminder, family means never having to say thank you, but apparently, it also means you're free to mock the person paying your bills. The comments blew up. Nurses, friends from high school, even some of my old instructors chimed in. People were pissed for me. Kayla DM'd me 2 hours later. You're ruining our family's name. Take it down. I left her on read. Then something wild happened. A nurse influencer I follow, huge account, like 2M followers, reshared my post and tagged me. She wrote, "This is why nurses burn out. Not just patients, not just hospitals, but ungrateful families." It went viral. Hundreds of messages flooded in from other nurses saying they'd been through the same thing. I even got invited to speak on a podcast about family boundaries and burnout. Meanwhile, I'm hearing from mutuals that Robert's pissed. Apparently Susan's mad because she's being questioned at church. Kayla's taking a break from socials after getting flamed in her DMs. Good. Actions have consequences, mate. But even with all that validation, the part that cut deepest, the fact that I had really hoped they'd understand, that maybe I meant something more than just a bank account with a pulse. Guess not. Last night, I sat in my room scrolling through old pics, birthday parties, holidays, times I thought we were close. And it hit me, I've been hanging on to the idea of family when what I really had was a contract, unspoken, unbalanced, and honestly, toxic as hell. So I've made a decision. They're not family anymore. And if they thought I was cold before, they haven't seen anything yet. I'm not just cutting them off. I'm burning the bridge, nuking the remains, and salting the damn earth. Let them mock me now. Because I'm done being their punchline. And trust me, there's more coming. They're about to learn what it really means to lose the person who held them all together. Next part, things get even messier. And I'm ready for it. So, things didn't quiet down like I thought they might. You'd think, after being publicly exposed for stealing from me and mocking me online, they'd back off for a while. Maybe go lick their wounds, rethink their life choices. Nah. These people doubled down. 3 days after my post blew up, Kayla made a TikTok. Of course she did, because apparently, being a walking red flag wasn't enough. She had to broadcast it. It was some moody filter, sad music in the background, and text over her face that read, "When your own sister turns the internet against you." Bro, seriously, the comments started off supportive because people didn't know the context, until someone replied, "Didn't she pay your car off while you called her a joke behind her back? And another girl? We saw the receipts. She deleted it within the hour." But not before it made the rounds. Meanwhile, Susan, bless her, was going the old school route, calling mutuals, trying to guilt-trip people who liked my post, telling anyone who'd listen that I was going through a phase and misunderstood the situation. Lady, your phase involved withdrawing $1,000 from a joint savings account behind my back, not exactly a misunderstanding. But let me back up for a second. Last year, I paid for Robert's dental implants. His actual words were, "I'll pay you back in 6 months. Max, I just need a short-term float." Yeah, that was 14 months ago. You know what I got in return? A thank you text and another request for gas money 3 weeks later. The only person who never directly asked me for money was my cousin Brittany. And guess what? She reached out after the drama exploded to say, "I always knew something was off about the way they treated you. I'm sorry. She didn't have to say that, but it meant a lot. Honestly, Brittany's the only one who's treated me like a human being instead of a paycheck wrapped in scrubs. So, I figured time to set the record straight. One final time, I made a pinned post, real casual, just facts. Since everyone's confused, I've paid for Robert's surgery, Susan's dental care, Kayla's rent and car, and about $15K in random bills over the last 5 years. In return, they posted a video laughing at me, drained my emergency account, and now they're mad I don't want to talk. That's not family. That's a scam with a shared last name. Clean, simple, zero drama in tone but all facts. That post went viral again. At this point, I had DMs from complete strangers offering me legal advice, people sending me templates for cease and desist letters. One guy even linked a Reddit thread with similar stories and was like, "Yo, you're not alone. This is a pattern." Wild, but then came the curveball. Kayla's boyfriend Jake, who I barely know, decided to get involved. This dude DMs me out of nowhere. "Hey, I know it's none of my business, but Kayla's been really depressed since everything happened. She didn't mean to hurt you. Can we talk?" "Nah, bro, no, we cannot." I didn't reply. I blocked him. Look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if your girl participates in a family roast of her sister while secretly recording it and posting it for clout, she's not the victim. Next morning, though, there was a goddamn envelope taped to my door. No joke. Like some 1950s mob move. I opened it and froze. Inside a bill? From Robert, a literal invoice, $2,800. For raising you, shelter, and emotional support services rendered. I'm not kidding. He itemized it. I sat on the couch, staring at it like, what reality am I living in? Who writes that with a straight face? The gall. The actual audacity. You think I was mad before now I was seeing red. So I did something a little extra. I made my own invoice, same format, same font, same passive-aggressive tone, mine included. $3 600 medical bills Susan, $4 100 dental, Robert. $2,000 car payoff Kayla, $1,000 grocery and utility contributions. $500 emotional damage LOL, $900 therapy I had to get because of y'all. Subtotal $12,100. Total due immediately. Your damn dignity. And I posted it publicly with the caption, if we're sending each other bills now, I figured I'd itemize my services too. Boom. That post exploded. People were screaming in the comments. I was getting tagged left and right. Even got a few shout-outs from content creators who do finance and family drama stories. Apparently, I had become a whole online case study in boundary setting. It felt kinda good, not gonna lie. But all this drama took a toll too. I wasn't sleeping great. Even though I had blocked them everywhere, part of me was still bracing for another knock on the door, another tantrum, another guilt trip. Then it came, but not in the way I expected. 2 nights later, I got a call from my old landlord. Random, right. He said, "Hey Madison, just a heads up, Robert and Susan listed you as a reference on a rental application." What? They're trying to move into one of our units, and they wrote that you'd co-sign if needed. Excuse me, these people hadn't talked to me in over a week. I had them blocked, and now they were tossing my name around to landlords after everything. I laughed, like one of those dry, borderline unhinged laughs. Then I told him, "Please remove my name. Do not let them use me for anything, ever." He agreed, said it was shady as hell. I thanked him and hung up, shaking. They were still trying to use me, still assuming I'd come through, still treating me like a failsafe. WTF do I have to do to make it stop? I called Brittany, ranted for an hour. She just listened. Didn't judge. Didn't say they're still family or you'll regret this someday. Just real support. That phone call was the first time I cried since this whole mess started. Because honestly, I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt done. Done hoping for an apology. Done wanting a reason. Done thinking they'd ever change. That night, I did something symbolic. Took a box I'd been holding onto photos, letters, old birthday cards from them, and dumped the whole thing in the trash. I don't need reminders of people who treat me like a utility, and if they want to keep pretending I'm the villain in their made-up sob story, fine, let them. But they'll have to do it without me, because from now on, I'm out of the narrative. Completely, fully, forever. The best part. I've never felt lighter. I thought things would die down after that. You'd think publicly burning every bridge would be enough. Right? Nope. Last Thursday, I got an email, an actual formal-looking email. The subject line, Family Reconciliation Opportunity. I almost choked on my coffee. It was from some mediation consultant Susan found online. Apparently, they hired a freaking third party to reach out to me. I guess when gaslighting fails, outsource it. The email was full of corporate lingo like, our goal is to reestablish constructive dialogue between family stakeholders. Bro, what the hell, I'm not a board member, I'm your damn daughter. I replied with exactly 2 words, hard pass, nah. Then blocked the consultant too. Get out of here with your restorative framework. I told Brittany about it. She was like, they're desperate. You unplugged the ATM and now they're spiraling. She wasn't wrong. But what I didn't expect was what came next. Friday morning, 7:12 a.m. My phone buzzes with a Venmo request. From Kayla. No message. Just a $40 request titled, you still owe me for that Uber in 2019. I had to read it twice. You mean the Uber I took alone because y'all ditched me at a bar after trashing my job to your friends? Screw that. I screenshotted it, posted it to my story with the caption, at this point, just send an invoice for oxygen too. That post went wild. People started sharing their own petty Venmo stories. It became this whole trend. I even got a DM from a podcast asking if I'd share the story live. I passed, but still, felt good to know I wasn't the only one. Meanwhile, my inbox was turning into a war zone. A cousin I hadn't talked to in years messaged me saying I was disrespecting the family legacy. Legacy what? Legacy. The one where y'all pile emotional debt on people who make more money. Then came the Facebook post. Of course, Susan using her classic move vague booking. Cue the choir of thinking of you comments from her bingo friends and church ladies. I didn't even engage. Let them think what they want. The people who matter already know the truth. But let me tell you what did shake me. Robert filed a police report. Yep, you read that right. I got a call from an officer. Nothing serious, just routine follow-up on a financial dispute. Apparently, Robert tried to claim I was withholding funds from the emergency account. You know, the one I legally removed them from after they stole from it. Luckily, I had all the bank statements, screenshots, timestamps, texts, you name it, sent them over without blinking. The officer was chill, probably saw how ridiculous it was, but still, it rattled me that they'd go this far to make me the villain. The next day, I lawyered up, not because I thought I'd need to, but just in case. Peace of mind. The lawyer, coolest woman ever, looked at everything, and within minutes she goes, you're fine, but if they escalate again, we'll file a restraining order. That word restraining order felt surreal. How did we get here? 2 years ago, I was paying off Robert's debt and ordering DoorDash to their place when they said they couldn't afford groceries. And now I'm preparing to legally block them from showing up at my apartment. It's like watching a bad sitcom implode in real time. Anyway, I tried to focus on work, took a few new shifts, booked a weekend getaway with some friends just to breathe. but peace still temporary. Because Sunday morning, I get a call from my building manager. Apparently, someone accidentally submitted a request to get access to my unit, said they were family and needed to retrieve urgent personal items. Who the hell? Manager told them no, obviously, but when he described the woman, Susan, I was fuming. I went down to the office, showed him the block list, the email, the police stuff, everything. He apologized, said she'd been flagged, and added a note to deny access to anyone not on my approved guest list. But it messed with my head. They were trying to get inside my space now. That night, I changed all my locks, called a security guy I knew from college, installed a cam at the door, updated my passwords, even canceled a few recurring subscriptions I realized Kayla might still have access to. It was like detoxing from a virus. But then, something shifted. A few days later, my Aunt Susan's sister called me out of nowhere. We hadn't spoken in years. She'd always been the quiet one in the family, kept her distance from drama. She said, "I just wanted you to know, I see you. I believe you. I'm proud of you for standing your ground." I almost cried. She told me she went no contact with Susan a decade ago for the same crap. Manipulation, guilt-tripping, financial leeching, said it ran deep in their side of the family. That call healed something I didn't know needed healing. It reminded me I wasn't broken. I wasn't too sensitive. I wasn't imagining it. I was breaking a damn cycle. And yeah, it's messy, and lonely sometimes, and full of second-guessing, but it's worth it. Because for once, my life is actually mine. My money is mine. Not what we kiss. My peace is mine. My story is mine. And I'm not giving any of it back to people who laughed while they drained me dry. They can keep their fake apologies. I'm keeping my boundaries. So yeah, after that talk with my aunt, something clicked. I started sleeping better. Not great, but better. No more waking up in a panic, checking my phone for some drama bomb from Robert or Susan. No more walking on eggshells wondering when the next guilt trip would arrive like a DoorDash I never ordered. It was quiet, weirdly quiet. And that's when I knew they were plotting something. Call it trauma intuition. But when people like them go radio silent, it's not peace, it's prep. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, Brittany forwarded me a post she saw on Facebook. Kayla had shared this long, whiny post in some local family group. It's scary how fast someone you love can turn on you, especially when they've forgotten who helped them get where they are. Just sad. Money really does change people. Followed by photos of us as kids, smiling like idiots in 2006. The comments, a dumpster fire. People I didn't even know were chiming in like, "He needs to grow up and spoiled millennials don't respect their parents anymore." I was half laughing, half ready to throw my phone through the wall. I could have replied. I could have posted screenshots, receipts, the full backstory. But I didn't, because honestly, it would have made me look just as petty. Instead, I did something better. I shared a post too, but mine wasn't about them. It was a photo of my new workspace, clean, minimal, sun coming through the window, and a caption that just said, "Peace is expensive, but it's worth every penny." And just like that, I reclaimed the narrative. Brittany texted me 5 minutes later. "That's how you do it, Queen. But oh, the story doesn't end there." Because Robert the man really said, "Hold my beer." I get a letter in the mail, like a physical snail mail letter. Typed, formal, sent certified. He's threatening to sue me. No joke. Apparently, he thinks I unlawfully locked him out of joint assets and caused emotional distress by cutting off support without notice. This man really tried to pull the financial abandonment card like we were in a damn divorce. I took it to my lawyer. She read it, snorted, and said, "This isn't even a lawsuit, it's a temper tantrum with a postage stamp." We filed a cease and desist. 2 days later, boom, another letter. This time from Susan. Handwritten, pages long, filled with lines like, "I don't recognize who you've become. You're letting your pride destroy this family. God doesn't reward children who turn their backs on their parents. And the one that really got me. One day, you'll regret this. Nah, one day, I'll regret not cutting y'all off sooner." But I didn't reply. I just kept it in a drawer, like a souvenir of who I used to be, the girl who would have cried over that, the girl who would have caved. She's gone now. Fast forward to last weekend, I was out getting brunch with Brittany when she pulls up a TikTok. I'm like, what now? Turns out, someone leaked the video. Yup, the original video from game night, the one Kayla secretly posted and then deleted. Somehow, it ended up on Reddit, then TikTok, then Twitter. It exploded. People were dissecting it like a true crime case. Comments like, "Imagine mocking your kid who's literally supporting you. This family sounds toxic, Ev. She deserves better." I was stunned. I never intended for it to go public. I didn't share it. I barely even saved it. But seeing strangers validate what I'd been feeling for years, it hit different. The internet can be a dumpster sometimes, but that week it felt like the world had my back. Even better, an old mentor of mine, a guy who used to work in media, saw the video and reached out. He offered me a gig, said I had an authentic voice, and asked if I'd consider co-hosting a podcast segment about boundaries, family, and generational guilt. I was like, are you serious? We did a pilot episode that week. And let me tell you, talking about it, unfiltered, with someone who got it, it felt like therapy, but better. Because this time, people were listening. The episode did numbers, nothing viral, but enough to know we struck a chord. And just like that, something I built from pain turned into purpose. I started getting DMs from people saying, "Your story gave me the courage to cut off my toxic parents. I finally said no to my brother for the first time ever. Thank you for reminding me I'm not crazy." And every time I read one, I felt that weight lift a little more. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about all of us. Beaks. All the people who've been called selfish for setting boundaries, all the kids who got mocked by the very people they were paying bills for, all the adults still trying to heal from wounds no one else could see. That's the real plot twist. They tried to make me look like the villain, but in the end, I became the voice they couldn't silence. The one who got out, the one who told the truth, and the one who finally stopped apologizing for it. 3 months later, I was sitting on my porch, iced coffee in one hand, laptop open in the other, editing the latest episode of our podcast. That day's topic, financial abuse disguised as family loyalty. Tell me that's not poetic justice. Brittany was inside making pancakes, music blasting, the sun was out, life felt settled. Not perfect, but solid. It still catches me off guard sometimes. The silence, the space, the peace. No more passive-aggressive messages from Susan. No fake apologies from Kayla. No emotionally manipulative calls just to check in from Robert. Honestly, I hadn't heard from them at all since the cease and desist landed in their mailbox. Guess I finally said something they couldn't talk over. But don't worry, karma kept her calendar clear for them. A friend from back home, one of the few I still talk to, sent me a screenshot a couple weeks ago. A GoFundMe page. Title: "Help us save our family home." Robert and Susan were behind on mortgage payments. Apparently, some debts I didn't even know about had caught up with them. Car repossession, credit cards in default, property taxes unpaid. And guess who was noticeably absent from the donors tab? Yours truly? Even Kayla didn't donate. Wild, right? Instead, she reposted it on Twitter with some vague caption like, "It's hard watching people struggle when you're powerless to help." Powerless girl, please, you were never powerless. You just ran out of other people's money. That post ended up on one of those Nepo baby fails accounts and blew up in the worst way possible. Hundreds of people dragging her in the comments. This the same cousin who laughed while her uncle mocked the nurse paying all their bills. She had power, she had Wi-Fi and a working phone to post that mess, didn't she? I didn't comment, didn't like, didn't share, but I read every reply with a stupid little grin on my face. It's not about revenge, not really. It's about accountability. See, for people like them, silence is violence, but the kind they inflicted for years. Silence when I needed defending. Silence when I was hurting. Silence when they cashed the checks but never said thank you. So now I'm returning the favor. And you know what's funny? The peace is louder than the chaos ever was. I started doing speaking gigs. Small ones at first college panels, mental health podcasts, community centers, just me, a mic, and a room full of people who get it. I even got invited to speak at a healthcare conference. My topic: how compassion fatigue begins at home. The applause at the end hit different. Not because I nailed the delivery, though I kinda did, but because it felt like a full circle moment. I was no longer the girl trying to earn their approval. I was the woman helping others reclaim their own power. One woman came up to me after, tears in her eyes, and said, "You made me realize I've been raising my parents since I was 15, and I'm tired." We hugged, she cried on my shoulder, and I thought, yeah, this matters. This means something. Look, I'm not some hero. I'm not perfect. I'm not fully healed. I still flinch sometimes when my phone rings, half expecting it to be them. I still feel that old guilt creep in when I pass a hospital room with an elderly patient and wonder if Susan's okay. But I don't act on it, because here's what I finally learned. You can care without sacrificing yourself. You can forgive without letting them back in. And you can move on without sending a farewell speech. Last weekend, Brittany and I were walking through a local market when I saw a little girl in scrubs, probably 10 years old, handing out lemonade. The sign on her table said, "Future Nurse Fund." I stopped, dropped a $50 in her jar, and said, "The world needs more girls like you." She smiled, all shy, and said, "Are you that lady from TikTok?" I laughed. "Yeah, I guess I am." We walked away and Brittany whispered, "Full circle moment." I nodded. Full freaking circle. So here I am, standing in the life I built, one decision, one boundary, one blocked number at a time. And no, I don't miss them. Not the real them. I miss the version of them I hoped existed. The one I made excuses for. The one I imagined every time I bailed them out or smiled through their mockery. That version was fiction. This life, this peace, this self-worth, this is real. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for growing, for setting boundaries, for not wanting to be the emotional punching bag for people who should have protected you, let me say this clearly. You're not selfish, you're not cold, you're not broken. You're just finally putting yourself first. And that's not rebellion, that's survival. One day, they'll realize what they lost. Maybe they already do, but it won't change anything, because I've changed. And once you know your worth, there's no going back. Not for them, not for anyone. Not even for family. Story 2, they say the youngest child always has it easy. That wasn't true for me. I'm Skylar 32 now, but for most of my life, I was the invisible one. The youngest of 5 in a loud, messy family in North Carolina. My siblings Carter, Lena, Max, and June were way older. Carter was already driving when I was born. Lena had boyfriends, Max had debates, June had trophies. I had crayons and questions no one wanted to answer. I thought if I loved them hard enough, maybe they'd notice. Spoiler, they didn't. The first time I realized I was just a background blur in their lives, Carter's wedding, I was 8. I'd spent the whole week pretending to tie ties on my teddy bear, excited to wear a suit and clap when Carter kissed his bride. But then Mom sat me down. "Sweetie, it's adults only." she said, flipping through her organizer like my heart wasn't breaking in front of her. I looked at Carter. He didn't meet my eyes. "We'll bring you cake," Mom added, like that helped. I didn't cry in front of them. I waited until the front door closed and then buried my face in the pillow. Through the window, I saw the car drive off, everyone dressed up, laughing, while I stayed behind with our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Nina, who smelled like cough drops and boiled cabbage. At that moment, something inside me started cracking, but I held it together. I always did. At 12, I got a job bagging groceries. My dad, never one to read bills, had racked up late fees on the electric, so I used my tiny paychecks to sneak cash into Mom's purse so the lights wouldn't go out. They never asked where the money came from. Never said thank you either. I didn't care. I thought maybe if I kept being useful, they'd finally see me. Then came Lena's wedding. I was 10. I asked her the moment she announced it, "Can I come this time, please?" She tousled my hair like I was a golden retriever. "Not this one, kiddo. It's more of a romantic vibe." A romantic vibe. Apparently, I ruined the aesthetic. That night, I sat on the porch as they all pulled out of the driveway again. I remember the way my hand tingled from pressing it against the cold railing, trying to stay numb. A week later, I wrote Lena a letter. I never mailed it. I folded it into eighths and hid it under my mattress. I still remember the first line, "I'm your brother, not a stray dog." I kept hoping the next sibling would be different. When Max got engaged, I was 14, taller now, responsible. I handled groceries, I cooked sometimes, I even filled out his FAFSA for him when he got stuck. Surely Max would see I was more than a child, but his fiancée, Grace, wanted a clean, adult event, no young energy, whatever that meant. When I argued with Dad, my voice cracked. He sighed. "Stop being dramatic. Sky." It hit me harder than I expected. Dramatic, I hadn't cried in years. I'd been their janitor, therapist, ghost donor. That night, I lit a candle in my room and just stared at it. I remember thinking, if I disappeared tomorrow, would they even notice? Then came June's wedding. By then I was 17, nearly an adult, legally, anyway. She sent formal invitations, no one under 18. My cousin Henry was exactly 4 weeks older than me and got to go. I didn't. At the family BBQ, he joked about how great the wine was. I smiled like it didn't hurt. But inside, it felt like being erased. So I did what I always did. I kept quiet and started building. Literally, I taught myself to code, designed a finance app that tracked household expenses, called it Clarity because I was desperate for some. When I was 18, I used the app's first earnings to clear out $18,000 of my parents' credit card debt. Mom cried. My siblings didn't even know. By 23, I had investors. By 28, I was making more than any of them. But none of it erased the kid who'd begged to be seen. I didn't realize how deep that wound went until last year. When I got a bank alert, $95, $700 gone, poof, from a shared account I'd made years ago for emergencies. Only 2 people still had access, my parents. Turns out, Max had convinced them to borrow the money for June's crumbling boutique business. No heads up, no text, just gone. When I called Mom, her voice was tired. "You're doing well. They needed it more." My hands shook. I wasn't angry yet, I was stunned. I called Carter next. He actually had the nerve to say, "You owe us. Sky, we raised you. Raised me. They forgot I existed until they needed Wi-Fi or a loan." I hung up, and I sat in silence for a long time. That night, my fiancée Mira found me staring at a spreadsheet. She put her arms around me, gentle, grounding. "They used you again?" she said softly. I nodded. "It's not just the money, it's everything. Every birthday, every wedding, every time they left me out. I'm just done." She kissed my forehead. "So be done." And that's when I decided I would plan our wedding exactly how I wanted. And none of them would be invited. Not one. No Carter, no Lena, no Max, no June. They'd all shut me out for decades. Now it was my turn to close the door. Planning the wedding was supposed to be fun. But it felt more like therapy. Every vendor meeting, every Pinterest board, every venue visit, Mira would catch me zoning out. She knew. I was still stuck on everything they'd taken from me. So, I did something I should have done years ago. I froze every shared account, blocked every auto payment connected to my name, canceled the emergency card that they'd used to steal from me. It felt unreal, like shutting off a faucet that had been running for 2 decades. Mira didn't say finally. She didn't need to. She just brought me tea and sat with me while I did it. The guest list, we wrote it from scratch, not out of tradition, out of intention. People who saw me, who stayed when things weren't easy. People like Mira's cousin Jules, who helped me build my app prototype back in college. Or my former boss, who gave me my first big break and always called me the quiet storm. Or Isaiah, the guy I'd met at a tech expo who'd become the closest thing to a brother I'd ever had. But not a single blood sibling. Mira asked me once, just to be sure, "You're really not inviting any of them?" I looked at her. Did they invite me? She didn't ask again. Word got out quickly. I don't know who leaked it, probably June. She still followed Mira on Instagram from a burner account. But once my siblings found out they weren't on the list, the storm started. Max texted me first. "Wow, real mature. Sky." I didn't answer. Then Lena called, 3 times, left a voicemail on the 3rd try. "I just think you're being petty. Family is messy, but it's still family." Funny how they remember we're family only when it benefits them. Carter emailed me, an actual email. The subject line said, "We deserve a conversation." What he really meant was, "You owe us an explanation for not giving us access to your moment." I didn't respond, just moved his message to the Nope folder I'd created for this exact purpose. And then, of course, Mom called. I let it ring. Then it rang again, and again. On the 4th call, I picked up. Her voice cracked with that fake sadness she used to get out of paying bills. "Skylar, honey, why are you doing this?" I swallowed hard. "You know why?" "It's just a wedding." "No, Mom, it's not just a wedding. It's the only one I'll ever have. And they never let me be part of theirs. Not once." She hesitated. They were young. They didn't mean it. No, they meant it. And now they're mad that I finally do, too. She sighed. "You're breaking this family apart." I laughed. And I hated that I laughed, because it made me sound cruel. I didn't break anything. I just stopped patching it up. Then I hung up. Mira and I toured the vineyard we were considering. The late spring breeze carried hints of lavender. The owner showed us where the ceremony could happen under a massive oak tree wrapped in lights. "I love it," Mira whispered, her hand in mine. I nodded, and for the first time, I felt it. Peace. Not because I had finally won something, but because I'd finally let go. I didn't need a seat at their table anymore. I was building my own, but of course, they didn't stop. Lena posted something on Facebook, one of those cryptic some people forget where they came from type of status updates. Max liked it. June commented a heart emoji. I blocked them all. Carter, he went nuclear, sent a voice message full of anger. You think you're better than us now? Just because you made a little money and married a lawyer, we were there when you were nothing. That one hurt. Not because it was true, but because it wasn't. They weren't there when I was nothing. They were why I felt like nothing. I saved the audio, then deleted it from my phone. Not because I forgave him, but because I didn't want him renting space in my pocket anymore. Then came the guilt mail. You know what I mean. Letters, long ones. written in Mom's swirly, over-practiced handwriting. Your father isn't well. This is breaking him. Do you really want to remember your wedding as the day you shut out your family? If money is what this is about, we'll find a way to pay you back. Nah. That last one made me laugh so hard I choked on my coffee. Mira found me laughing and handed me a sticky note that just said, "Burn it, not your energy to carry." I kept that note, taped it to my monitor. As the day approached, something changed in me. I stopped needing an apology. I stopped dreaming about the letter under my mattress. I even let myself look at that old photo from Carter's wedding, the one with the entire family smiling under an arch. Everyone except me, and instead of pain, I just felt nothing. Not numb, just done. I had grieved the family I wished I had. Now I was choosing the one I was building, and that brings me to a moment I'll never forget. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got an email from June. No subject, just one sentence. If you don't let us come, don't expect us to forgive you. It hit me harder than I expected. Not because I feared losing her, but because it finally clicked, they never saw my hurt as real. Only their exclusion, their shame, their inconvenience. They didn't care that I spent my childhood outside of every photo and inside every sacrifice. They cared that now the spotlight wasn't theirs, so I did something wild. I booked a second photographer, one just for candids. And I told them, capture joy, real joy. I don't want stiff poses or Pinterest perfection, just truth. And that's what I craved. Truth, not revenge, not drama, just one day where I wasn't begging to be included. The last straw came days before the wedding. Dad called. First time in months. He didn't ask how I was, didn't mention the wedding. He just said, "I hope you know what you're doing." I replied, "For once, yeah, I really do." And I hung up. For the last time, the morning of our wedding, I woke up before the sun. Not out of nerves, but clarity. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to please anyone who didn't care. I wasn't performing for love or trying to earn it. I was just ready. The vineyard was glowing by 10 a.m. String lights hugged the oak tree where we'd say our vows. The air smelled like wildflowers and fresh earth. Friends started trickling in, real friends, chosen family. People who remembered my birthday. People who replied to my "I need help" texts. People who never once asked for a favor with a guilt trip attached. IDOWorkHereLady clapped me on the back in the groom's suite. "You good, man." I nodded. Better than good. Peaceful. He grinned. "You look like someone who finally dropped the dead weight." He wasn't wrong. In my pocket, I had a small USB drive, a backup of the audio file I'd saved months ago, Carter admitting they'd taken the money, June laughing about how I'd never notice. I wasn't planning to use it, but I kept it just in case. Mira walked in hair and rollers, wearing a robe and sneakers, holding a half-eaten granola bar. They still haven't tried crashing this, right? I smiled. Not yet. But part of me knew it was coming. They weren't the kind to let a spotlight pass them by. By 3 p.m., I was standing under the oak tree, staring at the woman I loved. Mira was radiant, confident, whole. She looked like the future I never thought I deserved. Our vows weren't dramatic. They were honest. I promised never to make her beg for love. She promised to never use my silence against me. When we kissed, our guests stood and clapped. No fake cheer, no strained smiles, just joy. The reception was held under a white canopy tent lit with soft bulbs. Tables were decorated with photos, not of childhoods that excluded me, but moments that built me. Coding with IDOWorkHereLady, laughing with Mira in our first apartment, my old grocery store name tag, framed as a joke. We had one rule: no speeches unless they came from the heart. And then IDOWorkHereLady stood up. He raised his glass. To Sky, who taught me the quietest people have the loudest hearts, and to Mira, who reminds him that being loved doesn't mean being used. The applause was thunderous. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Then, like a movie script, it happened. A stir near the back. Murmurs. Chairs shifting. I turned toward the tent entrance and there they were. Carter, Lena, Max, June. Dressed for an event they weren't invited to. June wore white, like she was trying to steal attention without saying a word. Carter had that smug half-smile he used whenever he thought he'd fixed something just by showing up. They didn't look guilty. They looked offended, like they were the victims in some imaginary betrayal I hadn't committed. Guests froze. Forks hovered mid-air, conversations paused. Mira stood beside me, jaw tight, hands squeezing mine under the table. Carter stepped forward. We need to talk. I didn't move. This isn't the time. Lena chimed in. You shut us out of your life. Sky, this was the only way. I laughed. Just once. It wasn't joyful, it was tired. Max added, You made this ugly. No, I just stopped pretending it wasn't. June folded her arms. After everything we've done, that's when it happened. My brain stopped processing their words and started replaying the audio in my head. He won't miss it. He's got more than all of us combined. Sky's basically our fallback plan. Always has been. I stood slowly. Took the USB from my jacket. Walked to the DJ booth. My hands didn't shake this time. I asked him to play one audio file. Turn it up, I said. Everyone deserves to hear the truth. The tent fell silent as the clip echoed through the speakers. Carter's voice, clear as daylight, admitting they took the money. June's voice, laughing. Calling me a backup plan, people stared. Some gasped. Others looked at me with new eyes, not as a man who cut off his family, but as someone who had been bleeding quietly for years. Carter stepped forward. That's out of context. Is it? I asked. You're humiliating us, Lena snapped. No, I said, I'm exposing you. I nodded toward the venue staff. I see it. 2 security guards stepped in without a word. Escort them out, I said. They're not welcome here. Carter tried to argue. June looked ready to cry. Max muttered something about legal action. But it was too late. Guests began to applaud. Not because they hated my family, but because they finally saw what I'd lived through. After they were gone, I sat down. Mira rested her head on my shoulder. Isaiah raised a toast again, this time to peace, and I smiled. Not for the cameras. For myself, because I'd done something I thought I'd never be brave enough to do. I chose my truth over their comfort. Later that night, Mira and I danced under the stars. No tension, no guilt. Just music, laughter, and freedom. The wedding they excluded me from was ancient history now. Because this was mine. This was the first time I'd looked around a room and thought, I belong here. The week after the wedding felt like coming up for air after years underwater. No emails, no urgent family texts, no guilt trips. Just me, Mira, and the silence that finally felt like peace, not punishment. We left for a cabin in Vermont, no signal, no laptops, no distractions, just a stack of books, 2 bottles of wine, and one fireplace Mira couldn't stop trying to fix even though we had central heat. On the second night, she looked at me across the table and said, You okay? And for the first time in forever, I answered honestly. Yeah, I said, I actually think I am. But peace doesn't stop the past from knocking, because the moment we got back to our apartment, there it was. A letter, handwritten, return address my parents. I didn't open it right away, just stared at it, sitting on the counter. It wasn't heavy, but it felt like it carried the weight of every unanswered birthday card, every wedding invite that never had my name, every "it's not personal" they threw at me like a bandage. When I finally opened it, Mom's words spilled out in that same cursive I used to copy for school projects. "You've embarrassed us. You took something beautiful and made it bitter. Your father hasn't eaten properly since the wedding. June is devastated. She says she can't focus on her business. You turned your back on your family, and for what? To prove a point." I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the envelope. Then I lit a match and watched it burn in the sink. A few days later, IDOWorkHereLady dropped by with a peace offering a pint of salted caramel ice cream and a USB labeled "Just in Case Revenge Edition." "You sure you don't want to post it online?" he asked. "Reddit would have a field day. Honestly. TikTok too." I laughed. Tempting, but I think the point's already been made. He raised his eyebrows. "That's a first for you to not go full Batman." I shrugged. I don't need to see them fall anymore. I just needed to stop helping them climb. And then, quietly, another shift. We got a call from the bank. The legal claim Mira helped me file for the unauthorized withdrawal approved. We recovered the full $95,700. Plus interest. I could have celebrated by buying something fancy. A trip, a car, a big donation to a Look What I Did campaign. Instead, I wired the money straight to a nonprofit that helps teens aging out of foster care learn tech skills. Kids like me, kids who know what it's like to be treated like a spare part until someone needs you to fix something. Mira found me afterward, standing at the window. She didn't say anything, just kissed the back of my neck and whispered, "I'm proud of you." I didn't say it back, but inside, I was proud of me too. I thought the silence from my family might last. It didn't. Because 3 weeks after the donation, I got another text. Unknown number, one line. "You happy now you ruined us?" It was June, still blaming me for the boutique going under. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I blocked the number. No reply, AmITheA. Just silence, because closure isn't always about confrontation. Sometimes it's just about not answering the door when the past tries to walk back in, wearing guilt as perfume. We moved into a new place. A loft with sunlight that stretched across the wood floors by noon. We decorated it with things that felt like us, a scratched-up coffee table I'd refinished, Mira's absurd amount of throw pillows, and a single photo from the wedding. Not a group shot, just me and Mira under the oak tree. Laughing like nothing else in the world mattered, because it didn't. A few months later, I visited my childhood home one last time, not to reconnect, not for some dramatic showdown. Just to say goodbye to the version of me that used to live there. The door was still that faded blue. The porch light still flickered like it always had, and I stood outside with one hand in my pocket, looking at the house where I'd learned two things. Love shouldn't have to be earned like a paycheck. Just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they'll protect your heart. I didn't knock. Didn't need to. I turned around and walked away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. Now, life's quieter. Sweeter. Mira and I launched a mentorship program for teens in underserved schools who want to get into tech. I give guest lectures, help build apps, review resumes. Sometimes, a student will say, "Why do you care so much?" And I'll smile and say, "Because someone should have done it for me." They don't need to know the rest. They don't need to know about wedding photos that didn't have my face, or a family that only remembered my number when they needed cash, or the years I spent begging for a chair at a table I'd helped pay for. All they need to know is this. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to build a table of your own. And no, it's not revenge. It's liberation. Sometimes I still get tempted to scroll their socials, to see if they've posted something passive-aggressive or pretended nothing happened. But I don't, because I already got everything I wanted. Not revenge, not groveling, not even an apology, just the freedom to stop begging for love, and the peace of knowing I don't owe anyone my silence anymore. That's enough. Actually, that's everything. Story 3. You've always been our responsibility. My sister smirked, fork halfway to her mouth, like it was a joke. But we carry you, not the other way around. That was the moment. The crack in the floor beneath me. 10 years of loyalty, gone in 10 seconds. I'm Eli Mercer, 36, and for over a decade, I thought I was the backbone of my family. Turns out, I was just their backup plan. I own Mercer Electrical, a company I built from scratch. We wire everything from tiny apartments to city offices. It's hard work, but it's honest, and it paid enough for me to carry my parents when things got tight. I covered their mortgage, paid their utilities, and even funded their yearly trip to Aruba. Dad Ray used to say, "Family is a circle. What goes around comes back." I believed that. I believed in the idea that loyalty was currency. My sister, Fiona, never believed that. She's 34, divorced twice, and hasn't worked since she was 25. She lives with our parents now, taking up the guest room, baking cookies for Instagram, and talking about how hard life has been on her. Meanwhile, I'm showing up every Sunday to fix their wiring, sweating through my shirt, replacing outlets that sparked like firecrackers. And nobody asks me how I'm doing. Fiona, she's the golden one, Dad's sweetheart, Mom's confidant, and me. I'm just Eli. They love to say that. You know Eli, he doesn't need much. He's the strong one. He understands. No, I didn't understand. I tolerated. That Sunday, 2 weeks before everything collapsed, I was clearing the dishes after dinner. Mom was laughing at one of Fiona's dramatic stories about her emotionally unavailable ex. I bent to pick up a dropped fork, and I heard her whisper, "Eli only helps to feel superior. He thinks we owe him." Mom didn't correct her. She just nodded. It gutted me. I didn't say anything, just stared at the sink for a long time after that. But inside, something splintered. I'd given everything, and somehow that made me the villain. The days after that were a blur. I started seeing things I hadn't noticed before, like how Fiona never contributed a cent, not even for groceries. She'd laugh when the Wi-Fi went out and blame me for not upgrading the router, even though I paid the internet bill. I brought over a new coffee maker, and Dad barely looked up from his paper. "Fiona said you were cutting corners," he muttered. What I asked, "She says you're getting tight with money, that you don't want to help anymore." It was surreal. I stood there holding a box of new light bulbs, stunned. The truth twisted into some cartoonish version of selfishness. I didn't argue. I just left. At work, my assistant manager, Joe, caught me zoning out during a consultation. "You okay, boss?" she asked. "I'm fine," I lied. But I wasn't. I was unraveling. Every time I got a call from Mom, I hesitated before picking up. Every text from Fiona made my stomach turn. It was like they were rewriting the story of who I was, turning a decade of sacrifice into a performance. Then came the final straw. I'd saved up to send them on a European cruise, a surprise booked months in advance. But 2 days before departure, Fiona posted online about how some people throw money to make themselves feel important. I knew it was about me. Everyone did. So I canceled the cruise. That night, my phone rang like a fire alarm. It was Mom. "How could you do that to us?" she sobbed. Before I could explain, Fiona grabbed the phone. "You're punishing us because we don't worship you. Pathetic." I hung up. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after, and then something happened I didn't expect. Her voice, not Fiona's, not Mom's. "Lena, we met at a workshop I hosted for young electricians. She ran financial seminars. Sharp, kind, no nonsense. We ended up chatting over stale muffins and lukewarm coffee. I told her without naming names about a family that saw my help as control. She didn't pity me. She didn't tell me to forgive. She just said, "They're bleeding you dry. Eli, stop handing them the knife." Her words didn't feel cruel. They felt clarifying. I went back to my parents' place that weekend to fix the fuse box. That's when I heard it. Fiona, on the phone, her voice muffled, but I caught the words clear as day. "Once Eli burns out, we'll sell the house and split the cash. He's too soft to see it coming." My knees buckled. Not figuratively, I literally leaned against the wall to stay upright. They weren't just ungrateful. They were plotting to liquidate the one place I thought was built on love. I didn't confront her. Not then. I needed to think, to plan. To protect what was left of me, after Fiona's call in the garage, the one where she casually talked about selling the house behind my back, I didn't go back for 2 weeks. No texts, no visits, no groceries dropped off like a good little errand boy. I needed to breathe. I needed space. But more than anything, I needed clarity, and I got it from Lena. She came over that Friday, dropped a bottle of bourbon on my kitchen counter, and asked one question. What would your life look like if you stopped rescuing people who don't want to be saved? I didn't have an answer. I just stared at the bottle. I thought helping them made me a good son. I finally muttered. She leaned in. "No, it made you a convenient one." That night, I made a decision, quietly but completely. First, I froze the joint savings account I'd opened years ago for family use only. It was originally meant to help in emergencies, medical bills, house repairs, but over time, Fiona had started treating it like her personal wallet. I once saw a withdrawal for a designer bag, another for a weekend spa retreat. No more. I removed myself as a financial co-signer from their utility bills, canceled the auto payments to their vacation fund, and I restructured Mercer Electrical, so I was the sole owner again. No backdoors, no authorizations that could be misused. I even installed security alerts on my credit, in case Fiona decided to get creative. The next morning, it started. My phone lit up like a switchboard. First it was Mom. The water bill bounced. "What's going on, Eli?" I didn't respond. Then it was Dad. "You're acting cold. Very unlike you." Still, I said nothing. And then Fiona. "So, you're punishing us now, real classy." I muted the thread. Then, silence. It was the most peaceful hour I'd had in years. But peace never lasts in a house full of takers. By Tuesday, Fiona was at my office. She showed up unannounced, marched right past Joe at the front desk, and waltzed into my workspace like she owned the place. Her smile was fake, but her eyes were flames. "What is this? Eli, you cut the accounts without even warning us." I leaned back in my chair. "You were planning to sell the house without telling me." She blinked, caught off guard. "Where'd you hear that?" "You said it. In the garage, I was there." A beat of silence. Then she scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. You know how people talk when they're frustrated." I stood, not to intimidate her, just to reclaim my space. "You're not frustrated. You're entitled, and I'm done playing sponsor." She crossed her arms, but her smirk wavered. "You'll come crawling back. You always do. Not this time." I walked around the desk and opened the door. "Goodbye, Fiona." She didn't move for a second. Then she laughed. "That's cute. You think you're better than us now?" I didn't answer, because for once, I didn't have to. The fallout was immediate. That weekend, I wasn't invited to Dad's birthday dinner. Not even a text. I only knew it happened because an old family friend tagged everyone in a Facebook photo. Fiona was there, front and center, with a cake I probably would have paid for last year. The caption, "The real ones," showed up. I could have let it go, but then I got a call from Lena. "You might want to check your credit," she said. She sounded calm, too calm. I logged in while we were still on the phone. 2 denied applications under my name for a new line of credit and a personal loan. I hadn't applied for anything. My jaw clenched. I checked my alerts. One of the login attempts came from my parents' zip code. Fiona. I knew it. This wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. It was theft, identity, trust, peace, everything. And that night, I understood something new. They didn't just resent my boundaries, they feared them. Because boundaries meant limits, and limits meant no more access. I called Joe the next morning. Pull all company access logs. Reset every password. Full sweep. She didn't ask questions. She just did it. Then I booked an appointment with a lawyer Lena recommended. His name was Deshaun, and within minutes of hearing the story, he raised both eyebrows. "You've been financially supporting your parents and sister for how long? 10 years. And you've got proof of misuse. Plenty." "Okay," he said, "then it's time to go on record. Power of attorney revoked, financial separation enforced, and if needed, restraining orders." I blinked. "Isn't that extreme?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No, what they're doing is extreme. You're just protecting yourself." That's when I knew this wasn't over. It was just beginning. That weekend, Lena came by to help me clear out some boxes. She found a drawer full of birthday cards I'd bought for my family over the years. Half of them, never even given. I'd always planned to say something kind, something heartfelt. But each time, I'd held back. She picked one up, read the front. "To the dad who taught me loyalty." She glanced at me. "You gonna keep this?" I shook my head. She dropped it in the trash. "You taught yourself that, not him." She was right. Everything good, I'd become the provider, the builder, the one who shows up. I did that. Not them. And it was time I started building for me. Not for people who'd never clap unless they were holding out their hands. The morning started with static. Not in the air on my laptop. My screen blinked, froze, then restarted. Just a glitch, I thought, until it happened again. Then my email wouldn't load. Then my business account showed an alert. Unauthorized login attempt. IP address, my parents' neighborhood. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just Fiona being petty. It wasn't even about money anymore. They were trying to hack me. I called Deshaun immediately. "I think they're trying to get into my business accounts." He didn't even sound surprised. "Did you secure your social?" he asked. "Freeze your credit reports." Already done. "Then it's time to file a report and send me everything. We'll open a case against my family." This was the part in every movie where the lead character doubts himself, where he hesitates. They'd already made their choice. I was just finally responding to it. The next week was a blur. Cameras installed, passwords changed, legal letters sent, but peace didn't come. Instead, paranoia did. One night, coming home from the site, I noticed a gray sedan parked outside my building. Nothing unusual until it was there again the next night. And the one after that, I walked over once, phone in hand, trying to see the driver. They sped off. Joe noticed, too. "They followed us from the job site today," she whispered as we unloaded tools. "You think it's them?" Fiona's bold, but she's not subtle. She's escalating. It made sense. I'd cut off the financial tap, canceled my connections to their property, and started legal filings to keep them from accessing my company. They couldn't bleed me dry anymore, so now they wanted to corner me. Corner me into coming back. Then it got worse. I came home to find my apartment door open, not broken. Just unlocked. Inside, my drawers were rifled through. Nothing stolen, nothing damaged. But I knew someone had been inside. I checked my security camera footage and saw Mom, standing in my living room, holding my mail, no shame, no panic. Just looking. Then came Dad, behind her, pacing like he used to when deciding what punishment I deserved as a kid. And finally, Fiona, smirking like always. Like they belonged there. Like I didn't. They left after 10 minutes. 10 minutes too long. Lena arrived minutes after I called her. She didn't ask what happened. She could see it. This is breaking and entering. They used a key, I whispered, like that made it better. Which you didn't give them. This is still illegal. She was right. It didn't matter if they were family. They weren't guests. They were invaders. The next day, I changed the locks, again, filed a police report, sent the footage to Deshawn. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I went public. I posted a short message to my private professional group online. There's a difference between family and freeloaders. When the people closest to you start stealing your peace, it's okay to let them go. Permanently. The messages flooded in. People telling me their stories. Siblings who stole. Parents who gaslit. Cousins who took until there was nothing left. I wasn't alone. Not anymore. But Fiona, she wasn't finished. She showed up at my job site 2 days later, wearing sunglasses like she was famous. "You're really going to throw us away for some money?" she asked. I didn't even look up from the breaker box. "You broke into my home. I had to. You've shut everyone out." "You mean I set boundaries?" She leaned in, whispering like it made her words less venomous. "You owe us, Eli, for everything we gave you." I looked at her. Really looked. For the first time. "What did you ever give me, Fiona, besides guilt?" That stunned her. But only for a second. "Fine. If this is how you want it, we'll take everything." And that's when she handed me a manila envelope, inside a power of attorney document. Supposedly signed by me, granting her control over Mercer Electrical. It had my forged signature. My address, Shitbor, my full legal name. She turned to leave, her voice echoing behind her. "Dad's already filed a copy. You're done." I stared at the paper, pulse pounding. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was war. I rushed to Deshawn's office that afternoon. Threw the document on the desk. "They're trying to steal the company," I said, breathless. He scanned it. "Fake," he said instantly. "Amateur, but dangerous. We can handle this. But what if—" "Eli," he said, voice firm, "they're bluffing, but we need to hit back. Hard." That day, we filed for a cease and desist. Restraining orders and criminal charges for attempted fraud. You'd think that would scare them off, but you don't know Fiona. Or my parents. 2 days later, I opened the door to my apartment and found all 3 of them standing there. Again, like it was their home. Mom smiled like she used to when I brought home good grades. Dad didn't smile at all. Fiona just sneered. "You can't get rid of us," she said. "We are you," Mom added. "No," I said, voice low. "You were what I survived." Then I dialed 911. This time, I didn't flinch. This time, I didn't wait for them to back down. The police arrived in minutes. They were arrested. Trespassing, fraud, harassment, and I stood there on the sidewalk, watching the lights flash, heart steady for the first time in months. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally wanted peace. The The night after the arrests, my phone stayed quiet. No missed calls, no guilt-laced voicemails. No, you'll regret this messages, just silence. And for once, it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The case didn't drag out. With the forged power of attorney, the break-in footage, the failed login attempts, and the statements from Joe, Lena, and even my neighbor who'd seen them loitering, Deshawn had built an airtight case. They pled no contest, community service, fines, a permanent restraining order. But no apology, not once did any of them say, "I'm sorry." And that was fine. I didn't need their apology to heal. I just needed their absence. Mercer Electrical was thriving again. I promoted Joe to general manager, cut my hours, took weekends off. Started mentoring a few younger electricians who reminded me of myself, hungry, lost, willing to work but unsure how to build something for themselves. They asked me all the time, "How'd you do it?" And I'd laugh, then tell them the truth. By learning who to stop giving to, Lena and I got closer. What started with guarded conversations and late-night bourbon became steady mornings, shared coffee, and something I hadn't felt in years, safety. She never tried to fix me. She just listened, stood by, challenged me when I needed it. "You're not just someone who escaped them," she told me one night. "You're someone who chose to live differently." And she was right. I no longer measured love by sacrifice. I didn't believe silence meant peace. I didn't give out pieces of myself like coupons hoping one day they'd be redeemed with kindness. I gave intentionally now. To people who saw me, not what I could do for them. 6 months later, I got a letter. Not from Fiona or my parents. From a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, Mason. He'd heard what happened, wanted to apologize for not stepping in, for watching from the sidelines, said the family was still recovering from the fallout. Apparently, Fiona had tried to move in with an aunt and got turned away. Dad's small pension barely covered their new rental. Mom went online, trying to start a support group for abandoned parents. It didn't go well. Mason closed the letter with, "I don't know if you'll ever come back, but if you do, I hope it's not for them. I hope it's for you." I folded the letter. Didn't respond, not out of anger. Out of peace, because I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. A year to the day after the break-in, I hosted a barbecue. Joe brought her partner. The crew showed up with enough beer to fill a pool. Even some of our clients came. Lena made her famous mango salsa. Everyone begged for the recipe. We laughed, ate too much, and as the sun started to dip behind the fence, I looked around the yard, this space I'd built, this life I'd fought to protect, and realized something. None of these people were blood, but every single one of them felt like family. Not because of DNA, but because of choice, respect, mutual care. They didn't see me as a burden. They didn't tally up what I gave. They just saw me. Late that night, after the guests left and the music stopped, Lena and I sat on the back steps, watching the sky darken. She leaned against me. "You still think about them?" she asked quietly. "Sometimes," I said, "not the way I used to. Regret." I thought about that, about the birthday parties, the holidays, the years I spent giving everything time, money, love, hoping it would someday be enough. Then I shook my head. "No, I regret waiting so long to stop." She nodded, fingers laced with mine. We didn't say anything else. Because some truths don't need echoing. Months passed. Life moved forward, and one afternoon, I got another letter. This time, from Fiona. It wasn't dramatic. Just a few sentences, handwritten. "Hope you're doing well. I didn't understand before. I probably never will. But I wanted you to know I'm trying, not asking for anything. Just wanted to say that. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't cry, didn't rage. Just folded it, placed it in a drawer, and went on with my day. Because healing doesn't always look like reunions. Sometimes it just looks like neutrality, the absence of pain where it used to live. These days, I don't talk about them often. Not because I'm bitter, but because they're no longer the center of my story. I am, and I like the guy I'm becoming. He smiles more, worries less, sleeps with both eyes closed. He builds things not out of guilt but out of joy. He remembers birthdays because he wants to, not because he's afraid of being labeled selfish. He doesn't chase love with money or time. He lets love come to him, and it does. Every single day, I used to think family was forever. That blood meant loyalty, that obligation meant love, but I was wrong. Family isn't who shares your name. It's who shows up when there's nothing left to give. It's who doesn't flinch when you say no. It's who sees you not what you can do for them. And when I finally let go of the family who saw me as a bank, I found the people who saw me as a person. That's not loss, that's freedom. That's what starting over really means.